All right. What up, what up, what up? How's everybody doing? I hope you're having a wonderful Friday. It is Friday. It's April 5th. We are live on YouTube right here. And we are live on TikTok over here. So if you see me looking over here, I'm looking over at TikTok. And I'm looking over at YouTube because today we are here for another Q&A. We're back. And today we're celebrating the release of my new record. That is called Legacy. So you can see right here, it actually is a record. It's my first time printing vinyl. I'm really excited about it. So we have, you can see behind me, let's see, right here, you can see behind me a bunch of vinyl that's being packed up, ready to go out this afternoon. And we're talking about Legacy, the new record celebrating J.J. Johnson. And of course, answering all of your questions in our usual Q&A style setting. So go ahead and drop in your questions, and I'll see them kind of come in as we go here. I see people joining here on TikTok. So what's up, TikTok? We're talking all things jazz, trombone, music business, etc., etc., etc. Happy to dive in to whatever topics you all are thinking about today, Friday, April 5th, 2024. But I want to show you a few things. I showed you the vinyl. Of course, we have CDs of the upcoming release that is out today. You can grab them on Amazon. But the vinyl is only available at shows. And shows, speaking of shows, let me tell you about where we're going to be. The band is going back on the road next week, actually. So I'm going to show you a couple of things that are coming up here. Next week, first week of April here. Next week, the second week of April, we're going to head on over to, let me see, this is some photos I want to show you guys as well, but let me go to Chrome. There it is. All right, so we got some dates coming up. We're going to be at Sam First in LA next week on Wednesday. Sam First on Wednesday. Thursday, heading to Tucson, the Century Room. It's going to be a lot of fun. And then Saturday with Rufus Reed, Louis Nash, and Rini Rosnes, who are on the record. We're all going to be at the Nash in Phoenix, Arizona, which is going to be a lot of fun. And then after that, we've got a couple more gigs. We're going to be up in Connecticut at the Side Door Jazz Club, April 27th. And then May 9th, we'll be at Smalls in New York. Then we'll be in Nashville on May 17th, doing a little talk at the ISJAC conference. ISJAC is the International Society of Jazz Composers and Arrangers, or Jazz Arrangers and Composers. And then we're going to be playing and celebrating JJ and his legacy at the International Trombone Festival in Fort Worth, Texas, coming up in the end of May, beginning of June. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and we're going to have a lot of great music. So that's next week. The tour kicks off, and the vinyl is only available in person at the shows. I only have printed a limited run, so if you want to get your hands on one of these, if you did not pre-order, all the pre-orders are going out today, but you can go to nickfinzer.store if you want to see what it was. You want to download anything else, but you got to come to a show. So come see me in LA, Phoenix, Tucson, New York, Fort Worth, at IFTF, somewhere, and you can get yourself a vinyl copy of Legacy, my first ever vinyl album. So I've done, this is my 8th record as a leader, and that's the first one. So feel free to drop in any questions, topics, thoughts into the comments section here on YouTube or on TikTok. We'll be happy to get into any of that. But we'll get to those questions as soon as some come rolling in. It's a sleepy Friday, I think. But I want to show you and talk to you a little bit more about the session, kind of how great it was, and kind of show these musicians. I got some wonderful photos. TikTok, if you're not on YouTube, head over to YouTube so you can see these photos I'm about to share. So let's go over to the slideshow here. Let's see, we need to go to this. There we go. Some great shots from Adrian Tillman. If you don't know him, he's a wonderful photographer based in New York. and get myself out of the way of some of these photos here. But this is, of course, at the legendary Rudy Van Gelder Studio. That's where we recorded the album Legacy at Van Gelder Studio. You can hear so many great jazz recordings that were recorded there. It was an amazing experience, and so thankful I was able to get over there and check it out, record, make some music. But here, of course, we have the great Louis Nash, and I'm playing there, and of course, why wouldn't it be that John Coltrane is looking at you while you're recording your next record? We, of course, have Rini here at the piano. Some great shots from our session, kind of rehearsing, making things happen here. And I guess we're recording the first tune, Say When. That's the opener from the record. There's Louis again. Rini and Rufus Reed making a few changes. They were very gracious with their time and energy to kind of make some suggestions about making the record better, making the music better, and using their viewpoint from working with JJ himself, and maybe correcting some things that I thought were one way, but actually maybe they were another way. So that was super cool to be able to talk to them about that. A little bit of hanging. There's Don Sickler and his wife Maureen Sickler. They're working the control booth. You can see it was 11:05 on May 7th when we started, and that photo was taken. But they have the Van Gelder Studio, and they're, what would you call, stewarding the Van Gelder Studio, and making sure that it's running along. And I've seen a lot more people getting out there to check it out and to be able to record there themselves. I see some questions rolling in. Keep them coming. After I finish going through these photos, I'll get to those questions. So thank you for those. Let's keep going here. So then we got this. This is one of my favorites of Rufus in action. Some of these photos made their way into the album artwork, as you can see, and some of the single artwork. He's wearing, you can see Louis is wearing that t-shirt that says Bash for the Nash. That's what we're playing on Saturday the 13th. Some great shots of Louis in action, Rufus, Rini, and so I'm really thankful to Adrian for these great photos. And of course there's the album cover shot. Louis, some really nice photos he took of the band, and of course the studio. You can kind of see that vaulted ceiling there, and that big space is really eye-opening to play in that space and get to hear like where that reverb came from. It's really quite something. It makes you sound good pretty easily. So it was a lot of fun to be able to play in that room. Thank you, Vito. I see your question. I'll get you in just a second here. And DJ, I see your question. There's Ryan Truesdell. I didn't even get to talk about Ryan yet. Ryan Truesdell was the composer, he is a composer and a fantastic producer. He was helping produce the session. He's produced a few of my records. I love having him there to kind of assist in many, many ways, but mostly to listen to the music, offer suggestions, and make sure that we're staying on track with the recording session. And it was just great to have him. Bauer, I see your question too. I'm just going to get through the next couple of photos. We're almost done with the photo booth session here, but Rufus, of course, again. And I was talking about Ryan, but Ryan is here. We are again. Here's Ryan right here, and Ryan has been a fantastic producer on a lot of my projects. Actually, he's been on a bunch of them and produced the records. So he's a great friend and producer, and always hope to have him around. And there, of course, a group, all of us, and it was quite an experience. May 7th, so it's almost been a year. About 11 months ago, we recorded this project, and we got it out. We made it happen, celebrating JJ. And we're not done yet. We've done a lot of great things. Rufus was just at UNT a couple weeks ago, along with Billy Childs, who also played with JJ. to really celebrate his legacy. And we're going to keep going with that ITF performance in Fort Worth coming up in June. It's actually June 1st, but the festival is mostly in May, at the end of May, that last week after Memorial Day. So it's going to be super, super fun. So I hope you'll be able to join me in Phoenix, in Tucson, in LA, in Fort Worth, in New York, in Connecticut, somewhere. You can check out the tour schedule, and we'll be playing the music, and you'll be able to get Legacy on vinyl. So if you want a Legacy vinyl, if you're super nice to me, send me a message. Maybe I'll set one aside for you ahead of time. Otherwise, you're going to have to come to a gig to get them, just because there's a limited number, and I will have them on ITF as well. So all right, I see some questions rolling in, so we're going to get to the Q&A portion of this. I'm sure we'll keep talking about JJ. We'll keep talking about Legacy. It's on all your favorite streaming platforms today, and I hope you'll go and listen to it, give it a like. You know what? The most helpful thing you could do in terms of that is saving it to a playlist. So if you can listen to a track or two and then add it to a playlist of yours, that's super helpful for the algorithms on Spotify to show people that you dig the music. So don't just listen, even if you don't have time to listen. If you can just add it to a playlist, that's super useful. So thank you in advance. And whenever you're seeing this, it's very useful. So even if it's a week after this live stream is aired and you're looking back at it, please do that. And let me know what your favorite track from the record is. I know what mine is, but I want to hear what yours is as well. You can leave that down in the comments. All right. Someone is Bauer. He's looking for Say When in the real book. Yeah, I don't think it's in the real book. Where can you get a lead sheet for it? Well, I transcribed it. I can't sell you the lead sheet because it's JJ's tune. So I would just transcribe it. It's pretty easy. It's pretty simple and clear. The harmony is pretty clear. So I would just transcribe it. I don't have a lead sheet I can send you. And DJ has a question. Let's get to DJ here, and then I'll get to Vito. DJ's asking, any ideas rolling around for your next project? Yes, I have several. Of course I have several. We are going to... I already have two more projects that are already recorded that'll be coming out over the next year. Well, so top secret, I'll tell you right now, is that there's bonus tracks from the album that'll be coming out over the summer. So it's April 2024 now, and so when we get to May, June, July, there's some bonus tracks from the Legacy project that will be coming out. I'm not going to tell you what they are, but they are coming. There's two more tracks that are coming. Last year in May, I also recorded another small group recording, so some of those tracks will be coming out. Another quartet record, along with a lot of the quartet gigs that I have coming up. I'm looking forward to kind of using that platform, that ensemble more, and featuring the trombone and putting the trombone front and center. So we're going to do that. That's a lot of some of my favorite tunes. Some that got recorded on other albums and cut. So new versions, some tunes I play a lot on gigs that never made it to a record yet. So that'll be fun to get out. And then after that, there's a large ensemble record coming in 2025. So somewhere around this time next year, 2025, I've got a large ensemble record that we recorded a few years ago. That'll be coming out, I think, on vinyl, as well. So that'll be fun, and that's kind of the next year or so. The other projects beyond that, I've got some ideas, and I don't know if I should tell you what they are. If I should keep them secret, but I obviously have my band Here and Now, which is trombone, tenor and bass clarinet, piano, bass, drums, guitar, and that group is always like my go-to ensemble, and I'd love to get back to writing some more music for that, or playing the music. There's like 100 pieces that I've written for that ensemble over the years. You know, we made 5 or 6 records together, and it's been together for a long time, and it would be good to get back to doing some of that, playing that music. There's a lot of original music that I wrote for that band that doesn't get to be played very often, because touring with a sextet is hard, and having a lot of rehearsal time is hard, and all that sort of thing. So I hope to be able to get back to that, share some more sextet music. I was thinking the other day about recording with some of my other heroes, after doing this one with Rini and Rufus and Lewis Nash, it was really it's kind of just rolling around my head, maybe to try to get some record dates with some other musicians that I've always wanted to play with, and see if I can do that. So that's kind of rolling around in there, and maybe some even larger than big band stuff. That's kind of also rolling around in there. It's kind of it's kind of a ongoing battle to kind of figure out what's the next thing. It's always a lot of fun to be able to brainstorm new projects. All right, so Vito asked a question, kind of a technical question here about voicing for large trombone ensembles, 8+ people, and some of my favorite records. Well, it's the obvious records are Slide Hampton, World of Trombones. There's 2 of those records, and then there's the J&K octets. It's J&K plus 6. Those are some of my favorites. There's other smaller ones. Like Jen Wharton has a group called Bonegasm. That's 4 trombones and rhythm section. But his question about voicings themselves. Usually, at least in the YouTubes that we have at UNT, we have 2 bass trombones and 6 tenors. So, I kind of think about it as kind of 2 sections, But basically, trombones sound pretty good playing anything. Anything you can play on the piano sounds pretty good on trombones, kind of like strings, Whether it's, you got to be mindful of where you voice some of the thirds. You don't want them too low. It gets kind of muddy. But otherwise, trombones sound good in clusters. Trombones sound good in open position, closed position. You can kind of write whatever for trombones. The only thing that doesn't sound good on trombones is everyone playing fast all at the same time. It can be really bad sounding. If everybody is really good, then you can do it. But it can be a bit overwhelming and gets all kind of gross sounding if everyone is doing it together. But you just experiment. You can do 2 choirs. That's what a lot of people do 4 parts and 4 parts and go back and forth. You can just double the 4 parts and that get to 8. A lot of times I'll write, 2 people, 2 or 3 people. I forget exactly where this comes from. Maybe David Berger or maybe Bill Dobbins. I forget exactly. But somebody told me you should always have 3 things going on at one time in a chart. And that sometimes if you don't have that many, it's just not interesting enough, so, or maybe it was the opposite. Maybe it was like never have more than 3 things going on. Yeah, that could have been it too. But I kind of think about 3 elements at once. So meaning maybe we have the melody, maybe we have a counter line, and then maybe we have some backgrounds to those, or maybe like there's pads, and then there's the melody, and then there's some rhythmic hits, or maybe there's like a texture. I don't know. I do all kinds of things. I just kind of mess around because I know trombones can kind of get away with playing whatever in a trombone ensemble. They can sound. You can make 8-note chord voicings, like a double diminished thing. That sounds pretty cool. But generally, I probably write like 5 or 6 note voicings, then double the melody, and that'll get you most of the way there. If you got 5 note voicings and then double the melody, then you're cool. But I kind of don't like everyone playing all the time too, so sometimes you just have some people resting or trading, like back and forth the choirs. Well, we just finished a piece that I did for 10 trombones plus big band and 2 solo trombones. And a lot of that is just kind of passing stuff around between sections, but then doubling stuff up. But I just kind of go with use what I play on the piano, sing the parts, kind of like what part needs to come out. Does this need to be doubled? Should it just be one person? I don't know. It's kind of intuitive. The more you write for it, the easier it gets. I've thought about doing a trombone ensemble recording as well. I got some stuff, my little solo pandemic project thing, that record's called Out of Focus. That has some like ensemble stuff, some what do you call it? Trombone ensemble stuff. And so that was always a blast to do. So I've thought about doing that, maybe getting some of my trombone heroes together to do like a 6 or 8 piece trombone thing. But I don't know. We'll see what happens. I got plenty of arrangements, but I've also thought about doing like holiday trombone stuff, which would be fun. Like every year to have like a trombone ensemble concert and maybe do a single or something. I don't know. There are a lot of little ideas rolling around in the old noggin, as they say. But yeah. Anyway, Vito, I hope that's helpful to you. You just got to kind of write and see how it goes, and see like what is happening. What's trombone sound like? Excuse me. But you can basically get away with anything. Just write some stuff that sounds good on the piano, and it'll sound pretty good on trombones unless it's too low. So don't put the third below D in the staff, the bass clef staff. The same as with the piano voicing. My arranging and composing process isn't super technical. I probably need to do a little bit more score studying and things like that. But it's kind of always, for me, been kind of out of necessity or desire to do it, and I just do it and then fix it later. It's kind of like, say yes and then figure it out, that kind of thing. So I think that's the best way to grow, is to put yourself in an uncomfortable situation. So I tend to put myself in lots of uncomfortable situations, like saying, all right, I'm going to arrange for this. Like, for example, I think in the fall, to continue our celebration of J.J. Johnson, there's a great record of JJ's called The Brass Orchestra, and there's another great record of JJ's, a piece of JJ's that he wrote for Dizzy Gillespie called Perceptions. And I'm thinking of doing some excerpts from Perceptions adapted for trombone, and then writing a new piece for brass orchestra, similar instrumentation to what JJ wrote, and doing that as a concert at UNT in the fall to kind of wrap up the JJ 2024 100th year. It'll be 101 in January of 2025. So we're going to keep it rolling until at least the holiday season this year. So maybe in November of this year, I'll do something like that with a brass ensemble, brass orchestra. But that would mean I'd probably need to get to work on this piece pretty soon. So, it's all good. It is all good. So if you're here live and you've got some questions you want to talk about, anything in particular, things you're practicing, things you're struggling with, things about releasing records. If you didn't know, I also run a record label. It's called Outside in Music, and of course that's where my record just came out on. Of course, that is this one, Legacy. I'm very proud of it. It was a lot of fun to make, with Rini Rosnes on piano, Lewis Nash on drums, and Rufus Reed on the bass, who got to all play with JJ. And so it was great to be able to play his music with them. But yeah, so that's out. Long time coming. I've been talking about it for a long time, and we'll keep it rolling, and heading out on the road next week to make some music. It's going to be a lot of fun. So if you are in Phoenix, Tucson, LA, Connecticut, New York, Fort Worth, I'm coming. Where a lot of fun things are happening. And I see some more questions rolling in here. Thank you for those. I'm going to go to Vito again here over on TikTok. If you're not following me on TikTok, maybe you want to. There's fun trombone stuff over there. Okay. Thanks for the info. Since we're on the topic, of recording, can you discuss finances in preparation to recording a project? Yes. Okay. So this is what I say to our artists. There are essentials for, making a recording. There are essentials for getting the recording out into the world. But you should only spend as much money as you're comfortable with, and you should only spend enough money so that you have more to continue. What I mean is that it's never one record that really blows you up. It's the culmination of many projects over a long period of time. So that means this JJ project is not going to get as much publicity if I haven't done 5, 6, 7 records before this to set up this record for people to be able to check it out. So like this week, it was the number one ad on radio. I've never had a record of mine be the number one ad in its debut week, right, on the radio on Jazz Week, which is awesome. But the only reason that it's there is because, excuse me, is that I've invested slowly over time, consistently over time, in developing a presence online, in person, on radio, in magazines. So to get to the nitty-gritty of the finances, you could spend anything from $0 on the recording up to $10,000, $15,000. I know people who have spent $50,000 or $100,000. So basically, you need to account for how much you're going to pay the musicians, how much you're going to pay the studio. That's going to be different based on where you live and who you're asking to play and how many days. It varies. Then you have to mix and master. So it might cost you $1,000 to mix, $1,000 to master. It could cost you several thousand if you get somebody that's super qualified, or if you get somebody, or you take a really long time and you have a lot of edits. I always do one day in the studio because I think it's a waste of time to do multiple days with a jazz project. Like basically the music is the music and it's going to go how it goes. You're going to play how you play in that moment, and it's a document of that. But some people are perfectionists and they want to go in and like fix everything, and that's fine too. It just results in a different type of product. So knowing that, you got mix, you got master. Okay, and then from there, you've got the music. It's all together. Now you need artwork. You can do it yourself. It could be free. It could be, or whatever time goes into it, or maybe you need to pay a photographer to get photos and use the photos. That could be anywhere from a couple $100 to a couple $1,000, depending on who you're hiring. And then from there, it's the getting it out to the world. So you got to have some amount of money set aside to do marketing, publicity, advertising, all these sorts of things. You want to kind of meld those three things together: advertising, marketing, advertising, marketing, and publicity, excuse me. So if you can hire a team, the team would be a radio team, a publicist, and a marketing team. That could be for social. That could be for just doing advertisements. It could include a lot of different things. So you could spend anywhere from thousands to tens of thousands on this. I don't spend that much, but I do invest consistently on a team that's going to help me and invest my money in advertising and tools. I've done everything from social media ads to YouTube ads to taking out ads in Downbeat and Jazz Times and Jazz Is magazine, New York City Jazz Record, Hot House, taking out physical ads in their publications. But do I do everything all at once? No, right? So the main thing to realize is that this is a long process, and you don't have to have all the money up front. So what you want to do is first get the music together, start saving, right? So then once you have the music together, you've played a few gigs, then you can record. That means you just need to be able to pay the studio and the engineer and the musicians. Then you got to save up for the mixing and mastering and the artwork. And once that stage is done, then you can start to save up for the marketing and promotion budget. So you could easily spend $5,000 on each phase of that. So if you think $10,000 to $15,000, that's a good investment to start. You think about it as an investment in your music business. You as an artist, you Vito as an artist, you're gonna need to invest in yourself. There's startup costs to any business, and for an artist, the startup cost is your work, and your work is your recording. So you want to make it as good as you can, but don't spend all your money. So if that means you cut a bunch of corners and get stuff done as cheap as you can so you can get on to the next project and the next project and the next project, then that's what you should do. At the beginning, you're seeking to establish a strong reputation, and then you're trying to build on that reputation. Over the years, I've kind of targeted my different releases to different parts of my audience. Some of them I kind of geared more towards wanting to be able to get on radio. Some of them more towards wanting to be able to get coverage in a magazine. Some were more for me. Some were more for being able to get grants. Some were more for wanting to develop a wider audience, meaning recording certain pieces that'll be more searchable on social or more searchable on streaming platforms. all these different sorts of considerations. So, being thoughtful, trying to find where your interests overlap with the interests of the audience, or different parts of the audience, different parts of the industry, and just committing to the long term. I said I was going to make 5 records in 5 years when I started out, and I think I got to 5 in 2019, or maybe it was 2020. I think it was 2020 was my 5th record as a leader, and the first one was 2013, which was called Exposition. And so I did those 7, and then or did those 5 over 7 years, and then I try to stick to 1 a year from there. The biggest hang up people have, I think, is realizing that just like anything else, this is a game. This business is a game, and you have to decide if you're going to play it or you're not going to play it. And if you are going to play it, it's going to mean you need to make these investments. And so by these investments, I mean you need to print CDs, even though nobody has a CD player. It means you need to invest in publicity and marketing and advertising, even though they do not translate to sales, because that's not actually what you're building up. What you're building up is your reputation, and you're building up your visibility, and you're building up just like your career, your music, all of that stuff, $1 at a time. Yes, it'd be great if it all happened for free and then people just sent you things and you got tons of coverage and all of that, but we have to fight and scrap and try our best to get, people to know who we are. Especially as trombonists, jazz musicians. Obviously, jazz music is a small slice of the pie. And especially when our jazz music is not like elevator jazz music, like it's jazz music for listening and not jazz music for wallpaper, which is a big difference, So just knowing what you're making, knowing who it's for, knowing your purpose, and investing a little bit at a time, taking your time. It's better to have a slow drip than a big waterfall that lands on nobody, So you want to make sure you drip it out. If you've got some stuff recorded, release 1 track at a time so you can start talking about your music, and then don't worry so much about the album, because in jazz, we're obsessed with albums. The industry doesn't give a crap about albums. They give a crap about you releasing stuff. And so especially your audience, they only listen to 1 song of yours at a time, most likely. They're not listening to full albums. Jazz musicians listen to full albums, but that's not the majority of who your audience is. They're music fans. They're jazz fans. Some of them listen to full albums, but some of them don't. So the idea that you need to have a full album to start releasing things is over. So there's a young artist who came to me thinking he was going to release an album, and we kind of retooled his whole strategy he could have released an album, but it would have been really expensive, and the album would have probably fallen kind of flat because the tunes were a little bit too similar in terms of their vibe and their tempo, similar keys and things like that. They were all good, but there's just like putting them all together didn't necessarily equate to like a really strong debut statement, in my opinion. So what we decided to do was start to drip out the singles, meaning 1 song, wait 6 to 8 weeks, send out another song, 6 to 8 weeks, send out another song, group those songs together, release like an EP where you can talk about that. You could release, you could do something creative. You could do like a cassette tape or something weird with like an EP, get people to start engaging with you, giving you money for your merch, that sort of thing, building up the audience 1 person at a time. And then so he went back in the studio to record something else, and then we're going to combine some of that EP with some of the new tracks and put out a record later on in the year, rather than trying to get it out at the end of last year. So anyway, so different things like that is important to consider. So that was a very long explanation to talking about the budget for making a recording, but there's a lot to unpack there. If you're out there and you are someone that wants more information on that, I do coaching around releasing albums. So send me a message and we can talk about it if you would like to. I have more information, but it's not usually something that I put on this platform. I usually put it on the platform for my label because that's more about music business and all that sort of stuff. So I'll be happy to sort that out with you directly. But I see some questions rolling in. Let me go through my TikTok here, make sure I didn't miss any good ones. But I see another one here from YouTube, and so I'll grab that one really quickly. Let's see. Okay, so any advice on playing in the low range? Yeah, make sure you open up your mouth. Make sure you're not playing on a tiny mouthpiece. Too many players want it to be easy to play high, so they get a small mouthpiece. You can you can play high notes on a big mouthpiece. You can find something medium that helps you get the low range and the high range. But so number one, making sure you're playing on equipment that will allow you to play in the low range. Because if you play one of those double cup, what do they call it? Jet tone? No, I don't know what it's called. I saw one once. It's like got a big cup on the outside and then like a small little V cup in the middle. I don't know. Don't play that if you want to play in the low register. That's all I'm saying. But open up the inside cavity of your mouth. Make sure you're saying oh, oh, and it's getting relaxed in the throat, opening the throat, and making sure you're playing down there often and not giving yourself the excuse that, oh, I play a small horn. It's not going to sound good in the low register. It can sound just fine. It sounds good in the low register. You just have to spend time down there. You have to play music down there. If you want to improvise down there, you got to force yourself to play lines down there. So long tones in the low register. I like to play false tones and get down in that tritone between the low E and the low B flat. I think that's really important. And mostly just making sure that you're thinking about that vowel sound and making sure your mouth is open, making sure you're having good resonance, and you're thinking about opening up that sound. So it's like in the low register, but oh. You just got to play down there, man. You'll be cool. You're welcome, Vito. I know it was a long explanation about the record stuff, but all right. I'll give you guys all another moment or two to drop in any other questions, or we're going to wrap it up for today. I hope you'll go and check out Legacy on your favorite streaming platform, Spotify, wherever. We got plenty of CDs. If you have a jazz radio station in your town, I would appreciate it if you would call them, text them, email them, tell them you want to hear this record, Legacy by Nick Finzer. All those requests help get lots of spins on the station. So if you have a jazz station in your market, please do that. I really appreciate it. Unless you don't like the record, then don't do it. But the record's out today. Legacy, we're hitting the road next week. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I'm so glad for all of you for hanging out today, or if you're watching this after the fact, you want to hear about the record and everything that's going on with it and some of the stuff we talked about today. We'll be getting back to this Q&A stuff. I'm going to try to make sure I do it at least once a month. I kind of thought that nobody was missing it, and so I stopped doing it. And then I heard from some different people that maybe that wasn't the case, actually. So here we are. We're back, and I'm going to try to keep on a monthly schedule at least. I know I don't have time to do it every week, but definitely on a monthly basis we can hang out. So if you have suggestions about if this is a good time or other times, we'll discuss. But I'll make sure to try to get it up on my Bands in Town on my website so you can see when they are in advance and get reminders and stuff like that. But I see some other questions coming in, so before we sign off, we're going to hit those. Let's see, from Mitchell here. Hi, Mitchell. Any advice for balancing commercial gigs with developing your jazz creative music? Oh boy, yeah. It's a good question. A difficult question, but a good one. You got to do some things to pay the bills, right? And you got to do some things to push forward your creativity and your artistry. And they are not mutually exclusive, but they're also not the same thing. I did plenty and do plenty commercial gigs, theater, weddings, etc. and everyone did. I hear stories about JJ playing on Broadway, Curtis Fuller, all these guys. You know, the creative work doesn't always pay the bills. You know, I think jazz musicians, especially young jazz musicians, with myself included, kind of we don't have all the information about what it was like for our heroes in terms of the logistics of the gigs they were playing, the logistics of their finances and things like that. It's just like not a thing that people talk about. But they were all doing lots of different stuff. You know, I like to point out, you know, one of my mentors, Steve Teray, you know, he's been playing on Saturday Night Live for almost 40 years. 40. He's been on there for 39, I think, he said. And but that gig does not take away from his artistry as a musician. It enables his artistry in the same way that for me, teaching at a university enables me to focus on having that artistry as my primary musical output. So I think for every person, I'm circling around and going to answer the question. So for every person, I think it's important to come up with a balance of understanding how you feel and understanding how you want to build your career in a way that is sustainable, not for just your bank account, but for your sensibilities. Some people can be happy just playing their horn. Some people are happy only when they get paid X amount on a gig. Some people are happy just to be playing their horn for any amount of money. And all of those things, it's basically like, what are you willing to sacrifice, and or like, what are you willing to do outside of music or in addition within music to help make your ends meet? Because I'll tell you, I think the more I've learned about the older generations, the more I've realized that it's always been the same, that doing this more interesting to us music, more quote unquote serious music, jazz music or whatever, like there might have been more gigs, and I think there were more gigs, but they didn't necessarily like pay so much that people were getting rich off it. People had to do a lot of different things. Branford Marsalis played on the Tonight Show. You know, Wynton Marsalis does a lot of stuff besides play the trumpet. He's really good at the trumpet, but he has a lot of work that he has to do as the artistic director of Jazz at Lincoln Center, with Juilliard, you know, and he's always done that sort of stuff, you know, and so it's like, no matter what, you have to find a balance for yourself. And then, so I think about investing money in the creative side to build up a legacy, and not just legacy, but, you know, a whole reputation within, you know, the creative music space, jazz music space. And then you do what you can do outside of that to help to build your life, how you want to build your life. So, balancing is, you know, a relative idea, you know. I don't think that there's any one right answer to this. And you got to find out for yourself what that right balance is. So, so yeah, I hope that's helpful, Mitchell. I know it's kind of a deep dive there. A deep dive, and somebody keeps calling me on my phone. It opens up a lot of can of worms that I kind of don't think we should open right in this very moment, but happy to talk to you about it more some other time. But yeah, this has been great. Thank you so much for tuning in today. And that was a great question, a great one to end on, I think. And we'll be back. So keep watching my website for more, and we'll be back with these things. So have a great one, and we'll catch you later.